Hello, my friends. I have a special book to share with you today. It's called The Whale's Song, and it's written by somebody named Diane Sheldon, and the paintings are by a man named Gary Blythe. And wow, these paintings are amazing. You're just gonna love these paintings. This book I've had for a long time. This is one of the very first picture books I started collecting when I was a grown-up. I was at a friend's house, and this friend had some nieces and nephews who had some really wonderful books at their house. And I was reading them, just reading the books all by myself, and I found this book, The Whale's Song. And when I saw this book and the pictures that were in the book and the story, I just fell in love with it. And I went home and I told my sister, I said, I found this book that I just loved, and I couldn't remember the name, but I told her it was about whales, and it was about a little girl named Lily. And I think it was just a few days later, my sister came home with a gift for me, and she had gone to the local bookstore, and she went and talked to a person that worked there about this book, about whales. And she came home and she gave me this book, and I had it for my very own. And you know what? I carried it around with me for days, everywhere I went. I was in college and I carried it with me to college classes, and I was working at a nursing home and I carried it with me to work. I just had to have it with me all the time. And now I'm going to share it with you. The Whale's Song by Diane Ryan. Illustrated paintings, by Gary Blythe. Lily's grandmother told her a story. Once upon a time, she said, the ocean was filled with whales. They were as big as the hills. They were as peaceful as the moon. They were the most wondrous creatures you could ever imagine. Look at that painting. Lily climbed onto her grandmother's lap. I used to sit at the end of the pier and listen for whales, said Lily's grandmother. Sometimes I'd sit there all day and all night. Then suddenly I'd see them coming toward me from miles away. They moved through the water like they were dancing. Look at that painting of Lily on her grandmother's lap. You can see out the window. You can see the ocean that she's talking about. I love these paintings so much. But why did they swim to you, Grandma? Asked Lily. How did they know you were there? Lily's grandmother smiled. Oh, you had to bring them something special, a perfect shell or a beautiful stone. And if they liked you, the whales would take your gift and give you something in return. If you look at this painting in the back, you'll see whales and their water spouting water up from their spouts. Spraying water, that's how you say it. What would they give you, Grandma? Asked Lily. What did you get from the whales? Lily's grandmother sighed. Once or twice, she whispered. Once or twice, I heard them sing. That beautiful painting of Lily and her grandmother. This artist makes it look so real, like real people. Lily's great Uncle Frederick stomped into the room. That's nothing but a silly old tale, he snapped. Whales were important for their meat and their bones and for their blubber. If you have to tell Lily about whales, then tell her something useful. Don't fill her head with nonsense. Singing whales, indeed. There's great Uncle Frederick. Look at this amazing painting you can see in the room. You can see a fireplace and candles and pictures and a lamp, and you can see out the window, and you can see the faces, and you can tell how they're feeling by their faces. Illustrators and writers are so amazing, and you are amazing. There were whales here millions of years before there were ships or cities or even cave dwellers, continued Lily's grandmother. People used to say they were magical. People used to eat them and boil them down for oil, grumbled Lily's great-uncle Frederick, and stomped back out of the room. I like how the illustrator made this picture look down kind of from the ceiling. And you can see toys on the floor. These are the kind of pictures, illustrations that you could just look at for a very long time. Lily dreamt about whales. In her dreams, she saw them as large as mountains and bluer than the sky. In her dreams, she heard them singing, their voices like the wind. In her dreams, they leapt from the water and called her name. In the morning, Lily went down to the ocean, to the place where no one fished or swam or sailed. She walked to the end of the old pier. The water was empty and still. She took a yellow flower out of her pocket and dropped it into the water. "This is for you," she called into the air. You see Lily down at the end of the old pier, and if you look closely, you can see that there's a yellow flower. See it? Little yellow speckle down there. Lily sat at the end of the pier and waited. She waited all morning and all afternoon. Then, as dusk began to fall, Uncle Frederick came down the hill after her. "Enough of this foolishness," he said. "Come on home. You can't be dreaming your life away." That night, Lily awoke suddenly. The room was bright with moonlight. She sat up and listened. The house was quiet. Lily climbed out of bed and went to the window. She could hear something in the distance on the far side of the hill. There's Lily looking out the window. She raced outside and down to the shore. Her heart was pounding as she reached the sea. There, enormous in the ocean, were the whales. They leapt and jumped and spun across the moon. Their singing filled the night. Lily saw her yellow flower dancing on the spray. I'm going to bring it in close so you can see that yellow flower right there on the bottom of the page. Look at Lily, the moon, and the whales. Oh, it's so beautiful. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. Suddenly, Lily felt the breeze rustle her nightgown and the cold nip at her toes. She shivered and rubbed her eyes. Then it seemed the ocean was still again and the night dark and silent. Lily thought she must have been dreaming. She stood up and turned toward home. Then, from far, far away, on the breath of the wind, she heard, "Lily, Lily." The whales were calling her name. Isn't that an amazing painting of Lily's face? And that's the end. The Whale's Song. I love this book. I'm so glad I got to spend time with you today reading. If you would like to take more time looking at the pictures of this book and enjoying the beautiful words, you can see if it's at the library, you can see if a friend might have it, you can check out a bookstore, you can buy it online. Thanks for spending time with me, my friends. I'm so happy to spend time with you. I'll see you next time for a book or two with you.